Hello boys and girls, my name is Mike, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Irish history, but not just any part of Irish history, a very particular part of Irish history. That is, a part of Irish history that is all about a fella called Kevin O Higgins. And he lived through one of the most important times of Irish history. And while he himself is important, some of his relatives are very famous today. You might even have heard of some of them. Now, he was born in County Laois in 1892, and he went to St. Mary's School in Portlaoise. But there he got into a little bit of trouble. Hello, sir. Hiya. What? Me? Smoking? No, I'm not smoking. This. I wasn't smoking it. It's look, you can see it. It's smoking itself, sir. What? You're going to kick me out of school over this? But sir, smoking is good for you. That's right. Kevin O Higgins got kicked out of school for smoking. And yes, people believed back in those days that smoking was good for you. Well, duh. However, Kevin Higgins then went on to University College Dublin, and he wanted to be a priest. However, things changed because Kevin O Higgins joined a different group altogether. My name is Kevin Higgins, and instead of becoming a priest, I've joined the Irish Volunteers. Now, you see, in England had promised Ireland a little bit of rule called Home Rule. But the people of Northern Ireland were all against it, and they formed themselves into an army, and they were going to come down here, and they were going to push us around. So we formed ourselves into our own army, and we called ourselves the Irish Volunteers. And instead of becoming a priest, I took up a gun, and I got me bullets and my green uniform, and I am going to be an Irish volunteer. Now, this is 1915, and the thing about it is, they're talking about a revolution going on in Dublin maybe next year if all goes well. But what they've done is they've put me in charge of the Irish Volunteer Brigade in Stradbally. So, if ever the Northern Ireland fellas think of coming down to Stradbally and giving us a bit of trouble, well, I think you know what they're going to see first. You better believe it. Now, the Irish Volunteers were among the rebels that started the 1916 rising in Dublin. However, after the 1916 rising, the rebels were shot dead, and this enraged all of Ireland. So now Ireland declared itself a free nation, and they formed their own political party called Sinn Féin, which means we ourselves. Now, Kevin O Higgins joined Sinn Féin, and because he joined Sinn Féin, of course that was an illegal thing. After all, England was still ruling Ireland, and some Irish fella that says, hey listen, we're ruling ourselves, it was illegal. So Kevin O Higgins was put in prison, and in 1919, even though he was in prison, he was voted as a member of the British Parliament. However, in 1919 also, he was then voted as Airlocht of the new Dáil, and he became a Tuachta Dála, or a member of the Irish Parliament. He then later on was to become the Minister for Justice and a TD for Laois and Offaly. Finally, in 1922, England gave Ireland its own rule over itself. However, not everybody was happy with the deal that the Irish government had made with the British government. Northern Ireland was to remain part of Britain. Add to that, England could bring any of her warships into any Irish port that they wanted. And worst of all, Irish people were supposed to swear an oath to the King of England. In other words, that they were supposed to be loyal to him. Two sides looked at this idea and thought, yeah, this is a great idea. And the other side thought, no, this is silly. You see, those that were for this treaty became known as the treaty people, and they were for it and said, look, okay, it's not perfect, but we'll get more stuff from England later on. But the anti-treaty guys, they were so against it that they took up arms against the newly formed government of Ireland. They were in rebellion, not against England, but the newly formed Irish government. And so bitter was this anti-treaty group, the Republican IRA, that they would murder anybody who was involved in it. And as we'll see, that was to be an awful tragedy for Kevin O Higgins. Hello, boys and girls. I'm a member of the IRA. That is, we oppose the treaty. Them divils sold out to England, so they did. And what's more, they're hunting us down. We were former fighting men beside them when we were in 1916, and now they're hunting us down and putting us in prison. And Kevin O Higgins is the worst of them. Absolutely. He's after executing 37 of our friends in the prison, just like the Brits would have done. I'm telling you something. Minister of Justice, he may think he is, but we'll get to him somehow. Maybe not get to him, but we'll get to someone belonging to him. I know what we'll do. What we'll do is we'll murder someone belonging to him. You better believe it. Hey, Mr. Higgins, how are ya? Got him. The IRA shot Kevin O Higgins' father dead. Now we need to understand that people who were for the treaty were trying to make Ireland into a nation. But people who were against the treaty saw this as a selling out to the English, and that Ireland was still kind of being ruled by England. And among the 37 men that Kevin O Higgins, when he was Minister for Justice, had put to death, one of them had been his best man at his wedding. So you can imagine how bitter and angry people can be. However, Kevin O Higgins then went on to become a politician. I'm Kevin O Higgins, Tocht or TD, and I'm now Minister for Home Affairs. And I've even rejoined the Irish Army so as to keep an eye on things, because we're still having trouble with the anti-treaty fellas. However, we have a bit of a problem, because we need our own policemen. And right now, the only policemen in Ireland are not Irish. Hello, boys and girls. I'm from London, but I'm a policeman in Ireland. I am a member of the Royal Irish Constabulary. Royal, because it's English, right? But we're in Ireland, so we call it Irish. And constabulary is a name of a soldier, a constable. You know, like I'm a constable. Now, we've been in charge of Ireland for many years, but they're going to do us away because now they got this new government of Ireland. They think they can rule themselves, you know. And so they're going to start up their own organisation, their own police force. But they're not going to call it the Royal Irish Constabulary or the RIC. They have some other name. It's sort of funny sounding Irish words. I don't think that's even a language, mate. You know what I mean? Well, Kevin O Higgins got rid of the Royal Irish Constabulary. After all, they were an English police force. And they set up our own police force, which we called the Garda Síochána. Garda, guardian, Síochána, peace. So the guardians of peace, that's what Gardas are. And so Ireland now had its own police force. ruled by Irish government and nothing at all to do with England. However, the problems for Ireland were still going on. Two political parties had formed in the Irish government, one that had supported the treaty and one that had been against the treaty, the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. However, that doesn't mean that Ireland was at peace, because the old IRA were still running around trying to stop Ireland and this new treaty government that they had set up. And of course, this was to cause more than the worst possible problems for Kevin O Higgins. Hello, boys and girls. It's 1927, and that government in the Dáil are still running things, and they're still Northern Ireland's still not free, and England can still come into our ports, and all that stuff is going on right now. My name is Archie Doyle, and I know Kevin from years ago when he was in the Irish Volunteers, and he was a good man then, but he's just continuing the problems in Ireland. Oh, here he comes. Boys and girls, I have an idea. Hey, Kevin, how's it going? You still going to be selling out Ireland, are you? That fixed him. Ha ha! That's right. Archie Doyle and two other men murdered Kevin O Higgins in 1927. The men were arrested and put in prison. However, Kevin O Higgins was placed in a grave in Glasnevin Cemetery in Dublin. However, his family continued to be involved in Irish politics. His nephew is a man called Higgins too. And guess who he is? That's right. Have you guessing who it is? Of course, is our President, Michael O Higgins. And so, the story of Kevin O Higgins is a kind of a sad one, but yet an important one. You see, Kevin O Higgins could have been a priest, and while he would have done some fantastic work there, he was one of the men that worked Ireland into the nation that has become today. And today, Ireland is a free and independent nation of England, and it's one of the great countries of the world. And Kevin O Higgins' nephew is Michael O Higgins, who is actually the President of Ireland. Hey guys and girls, I had great sport telling you a little bit about Kevin O Higgins. Why don't you look him up online or in the library and find out a little bit more about him? After all, Laois is famous. Guys and girls, great to talk to you. Maybe I will see you sometime. God bless. Take care.